Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here. I am joined by David Rodriguez as well as Étienne de la Boétie squared here at PorcFest 2020. And you guys have been doing excellent work in California lately, raising awareness of civil disobedience. We have been dealing with the most insane tyrannical period in any of our lives, by far. It's really getting on the level of World War II as far as what it's doing to the psyche of the masses. And of course, one of the craziest parts, not just the shutdowns, the economic destruction, but the mask wearing. The fact that the populace has been able to be convinced to walk around with a mask on, outside by themselves, driving by themselves, with a threat of force if they don't. And obviously you guys have been working really hard to raise awareness about masks in California. Well, now it's basically the law. Some person wrote some ink on paper and now they say you all have to wear masks. First of all, David, can you start by going into what got you into this cause? What your initial thought process was trying to spread the ideas of civil disobedience here?
Yeah, so because we know that government authority is illegitimate, so how do you change what's happening when these government officials are putting this on like the orders or the laws? What do you do? I think non-compliance is a real solution. So Étienne happened to be in town over in San Jose, California. He was doing some of the business out there. We said, let's do something. So we did a peaceful beach day of civil disobedience. They said it was illegal to go sunbathe on the beach, but you can go swimming in the ocean, but you can't sunbathe. So we thought that was ridiculous. We put together some of our freedom friends. We went with about 10 or 12 people to actively non-comply and disobey, and it was successful the first week, and we said, this is pretty cool. How long are you going to be in town? So we just kept doing it week after week. Turns out 2 months later, we've had total success disobeying this order on the beach because we believe in exercising our freedom. We have to choose, are we free people or are we slaves? I mean, this is something that humanity is now approaching to make this decision. As voluntarists, we believe the future is voluntary, or it's going to be tyrannical and totalitarian with the United Nations Agenda 21 and stuff like that. So we just want to be part of the change, make some contribution, and it worked out for the first 2 months, and we're going to try to create this model, this blueprint, and help other people out there that want to do something, which we recommend you do something. Follow our model, do something better, upgrade it, and we think that that's a real path for victory.
Right, and people have to understand that they are either slaves or they're free. I mean, you do get a choice. It's just whether you're willing to disobey. And Étienne, you said something to me many years ago that has stuck in my mind. Just a very simple concept: government is organized crime. And you've really pushed that a lot. Try to get people to repeat that, say that, because obviously once you recognize that there's no difference between a violent cartel and a government, except for the fact that government has more power, usually by the people's recognition of its power or whatever, then you really start to recognize what government really truly is. And now what we're seeing today is absolutely unbelievably tyrannical. And I wanted to hear your thought process on all of this. And obviously you've been practicing civil disobedience, not social distancing, civil disobedience, and trying to educate police as well on this issue. Can you go a bit into how you do that?
Well, sure. So for those who are not familiar with my work, my name is Étienne de la Boétie. That is a pen name, squared. And I'm the author of Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, where I am exposing the illegitimacy, the immorality, and the illogical paradigm of government. The difference between government and the mafia is the mafia doesn't have a 12,000-hour indoctrination course to convince you that it's legitimate and that you have to give them your money. Public government schools. And the thesis of the book is that government, gubernare mente, to govern, mente the mind, govern the mind, control the mind control, starts with the mandatory government school system and forcing kids into an unethically manipulative program where they're using all the tools and techniques of an unethically manipulative religion or cult to slide the population the idea that government is legitimate. This is why we get to rule you. This is the legends of George Washington and the cannot tell a lie and the cherry tree, and they give you all of these things. But at the end of the day, the idea that 36 slave owners can go into a room on a continent of 3 million people and say we run things and we get to take the wealth of others, that's illegitimate on its face. That's immoral. And so when we come at the police, we come at them from this natural law, defense of our natural law rights, and we're saying, hey, look, we understand that you police officers have been put through this program, but we and other people don't believe in it. These are our natural law rights. You don't own the beach. You don't have rights that other people don't. And we've been able to shut them down every single time to where the government gave up, using the techniques in government, the biggest scam in history. And the main thing that we're now putting forth is something that we call the Thick Red Line movement, or the Thick Red Line project. And we feel bad for the cops in many ways. I mean, they're the victims of this unethically manipulative program that is giving them these templates since they were kids. They've been through the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts, the Explorers, the DARE program, military training, police training, ROTC, JROTC, Young Marines, DOD Starbase, and by the time they get out, I mean, all they know to do is sit down, shut up, salute, do what they're told, and you're unable to really communicate with them. And so what we've been doing is we've been communicating with them as human beings, and we've been saying, hey, if you only protected life, liberty, and property, people would be okay with you. It's only when police violate natural law rights by prosecuting victimless crimes and making arrests for victimless crimes that all of the issues that are burning down American cities start out. So instead of defunding the police, we're looking to defang the police against the citizens. They would still retain the ability to, protect life, liberty, and property. But we're encouraging the police officers to get together collectively with their union or outside of their union if the union's not going to participate, and say we're drawing a thick red line in the sand, and we're saying we as a department are no longer going to arrest people for victimless crimes. We're only going to act in defense of life, liberty, and property, which is a right that you have yourself, so you can delegate that right to the police. But because you don't have the right to tell your neighbor what kind of plants to smoke, and you don't have the right to tell your neighbor whether or not he can gamble, well, you obviously can't delegate rights that you don't have yourself to a representative or to a government or to a police officer to exercise rights you don't have on your behalf. So the police, once they understand that these, this is where morality is, bad people use violence to try and achieve social, goals and changes, and say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to be bad people. We're not going to use violence preemptively. Well, then that ends all the problems with the police. And so government-scam.com/thick red line, and we have these cards for cops that explain the reality to them. And we're looking for people, if you know police officers that would be willing to organize their department and draw a thick red line in the sand and come out on the side of morality and of voluntary relationships and not trying to force people to do things at the point of a government gun, well, then the people were going to respect them again.
Well, you got to think, a lot of people don't realize, there has to be a line drawn somewhere, and where some people might think it's okay to call the police on their neighbor or tell their neighbor what they can or cannot smoke. It's like, can you go into your neighbor's fridge and say, you got 2% milk? You got to drink 1% milk. You might get a little fat if you drink the 2. It's crazy to me. But I wanted to ask you, we are dealing with a serious psychological operation here. I mean, and not just from the perspective of, wearing the mask and following the orders, but the fact that people are becoming very depressed. Suicide rates are skyrocketing. People are getting seriously mentally damaged from this whole year. 2020, even if you have the strongest core, it's still, everyone's a little bit affected, mentally. It's hard not to be, because we've entered straight into the twilight zone. You walk around, it's like being surrounded by zombies sometimes. They have masks, you only see their eyes, you can never see smiles. It really has an effect on the mind. And I wanted to ask you, because you have been going out and talking to people about masks, and you've been going to stores and practicing not wearing a mask and everything, what your reaction from the average person is. Is it that of, I want, I want to follow the orders because we'll kill someone, even though there's no scientific evidence of that? Or, so what was your reaction from the average person when you tell them that masks are pointless?
Yeah, I think there's two camps. I think there's a camp that respects my right to choose, and I think there's a camp that's very afraid because they trust the media. So sometimes I'll go in the, and by the way, we did something called Operation Grocery Store that went a little bit viral, and you can see some of the videos that we did on Facebook, but they come up. I'm in the grocery store without a mask, and they're wearing a mask and say, I wish I had the courage to not wear a mask too. I'm like, you just go like this. You can do it. But people are afraid, right? And this is why I'm so passionate about schools, because they teach obedience rather than critical thinking, independent thought. They say, okay, if the media says it, then we must follow. If the governor says it, then we must follow. So I think the reaction, and what I'm seeing in my own family and my other friends, is that there's two camps: consensual relationships and coercive relationships. We got to choose, and I choose consent. And so even if it puts people at risk for not wearing a mask, you have a right to your life, and life is full of risk. There is no safety. There is no guarantee of we're going to make it till tomorrow. So let's be free today. Let's not be slaves. And that's been the reaction, is that there's two teams. I recommend you be on Team Freedom instead of Team Coercion, because that's where it's going. I mean, not where it's going. That's where it's at right now. So you need to become educated on what freedom is. I believe freedom is the issue of our lifetime. And if enough of us don't speak out, as you are and some of the great media producers out there, Étienne here, a bunch of people, freedom is the issue, and voluntary relationship seems to be the answer.
So what do we do then now that they're saying, I mean, obviously government is more fear than force at the end of the day. It's people obeying. But what do you do then when you have a state saying everyone must wear masks, period? California, Las Vegas, many places.
Let me take that one, because the other thing that I want people to understand is that we went into the hospitals very, very early on. We were in the hospitals 2 months ago. We're in the hospital in Santa Clara, California, that the LA Times called the epicenter of COVID in California. We were there 2 months ago in the kind of the height of it, and we blew the lid off it, that there's nobody in this hospital, that the tents are empty, that we talked to the people that were doing the testing. They weren't doing very much testing at all. They weren't seeing any more disease or death rates than the usual and customary seasonal flu. We also went into a hospital called Dominican in Santa Cruz and found the exact same thing: empty tents, empty waiting rooms, no evidence of any kind of pandemic whatsoever. And we did this before we started engaging in the mask exercise. So we knew there's no pandemic. We've talked to doctors, emergency room doctors, we've talked to paramedics, we've talked to nurses, we've talked to people all over the country, and we have not been able to find any evidence of any pandemic in any city other than New York. And then even the stories of New York and what's been going on in Elmhurst Hospital in New York, now there's whistleblowers coming out and saying that the hospital is counting people as COVID that didn't have COVID, and the New York Times was caught lying about the situation with ventilators, and so the whole thing smells like a media hoax. And one of the things that I find successful is we point out to people, how many times has the media lied to you? They've lied to you about Kuwaiti babies tossed out of incubators. They've lied to you about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They've lied to you about 9/11. They've lied to you about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. They've lied to you about the Brooks Brothers riot. They've lied, just go down the line of media deception, media and government deception, media and government deception, media and government deception. And can you not recognize that here we go again? It's just another media and government deception, because as my book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, exposed, it's intergenerational organized crime using government as a technique to rob and control society, using their partnership with the media to control perception and to make people think it's legitimate that they're getting robbed, that they have to participate in it. And what we're telling them is it's not. It's all illegitimate, and the only reason you believe in COVID or you believe in the government is because the government is sending you a never-ending stream of propaganda telling you that both of those are legitimate, and we're blowing the lid off of it.
Yeah, and bear with me for a second, because I always think that it's important for those that might be new viewers to hear the bullet points, and I'll get into why I'm saying this in a moment. But keep in mind that Dr. Fauci ran the Institution for Allergies and Infectious Diseases, which got millions of dollars in grants to work at the Wuhan Institute of Virology between 2015 and 2019 to develop or to study coronavirus in bats. It's 96% similar to the novel coronavirus, and in that study, the whole purpose was to be able to spread it to humans. Now, fast forward, you have Event 201. You got these massive Bill Gates trials where you have a lot of the people involved in the current pandemic situation, simulation, whatever you want to call it. They were involved in Event 201. A ton of money went into it. And then also, now know the facts, the stats. They originally said 3.7%, 7% death toll or mortality rate. What it ended up being is, according to the CDC themselves on their website, hidden away in their latest study, it says the chances of dying from it, if you have it, are 0.26%. If you take away nursing homes, it's 0.2%. If you take away people people over 50, it's 0.1%. If you count all asymptomatic cases, it's 0.04%. And if you take away everyone, not just getting it, but everyone in general, it's 0.002% chance of dying, which is less than the flu. You can't spread it if you're asymptomatic. Well, it's a 1 in about 10,000 chance. And on top of that, masks don't restrict this. The social distancing of 6 feet doesn't make any sense. You have to do 45 feet if you're actually going to do that. So it doesn't actually do anything. It's not airborne. Everything that we're being told about this is a lie. I have massively bad asthma. I've had pneumonia many times in my life. I had COVID in January. Let me tell you, you can't get it again. Let me tell you, wearing that mask, for me, I cough all day. I could get a lung infection from it. People don't give a damn when I tell them that. So all these facts on the table, you're talking to an average person who watches CNN or Fox News or one of these channels and is standing there at a grocery store. You're not wearing a mask. She freaks out. She thinks you're killing her kids. She thinks you're killing her mother. You can't just break down all the stats for her in the store because she's not going to listen. How do you deal with that specific person? Because that is one of the biggest psychological cases that we will have to work on, is that people are scared, so they obey.
Well, first off, you got to understand statists are very dangerous people because their moral code and compass has been shifted through the indoctrination of the schools. So some of the first questions I ask is, hey, I'm a little bit skeptical of this whole COVID thing. You know, are you like trusting the media and kind of see where they're at? Because if they full on believe the media, there's not much I can do. I'm one voice and they have CNN and ABC and all these guys, all this propaganda. So they're like, I trust the experts. I'm like, well, we've done personal investigations into these things and there's nobody in the hospitals. And then you have Erin Marie, the RN from Elmhurst Hospital, New York, who did undercover video, and she showed how the test for COVID says unconfirmed, and then at the top it says confirmed. So she's showing how the software is skewed. So it seems to be a media hoax, but talking with people, first of all, I got to see if their mind is open. If they have an open mind, then we can get somewhere. If not, I send them peace and love. And people that work in the government, I know there's good people, and they're not such a giant conspiracy, but the media is controlled. And so if you have an open mind, you got to look at both sides. That's what educated people do.
Yeah, and by the way, the tests also, I should add, the guy who invented the tests says himself it does not test for coronavirus. It tests for exosomes, which could be any virus or any illness, and it'll just test positive for anything they test you for. So, I mean, that says all you need to know about the numbers. And again, I don't believe that it doesn't exist. I believe it's a bioweapon, but I had it. But also, I don't think the world should be shut down over something that actually is coming out to have killed less than the flu. So we're looking at possibly a second wave, quote unquote, shutdown coming. The economy's already completely devastated. People are killing themselves in mass, though a lot of people are buying guns, I should note. I mean, there's like this weird fluctuation. Yeah. But I mean, how much longer do you guys think that you're going to be able to continue or keep this civil disobedience up before they just throw you in jail? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, we're undefeated against the police, so I'm not really worried about them throwing us in jail. What I'm doing is I'm exposing. So in addition to what we've done with the civil disobedience, I've also produced a multi-researcher investigation into Plandemic and who's behind Plandemic at government-scam.com/Plandemic. And we believe that COVID is the engineered, manufactured excuse for multi-trillion-dollar bailouts. This is a bank robbery. They spent billions of dollars to get trillions of dollars. So they manufactured a pandemic out of something that was not a pandemic as the manufactured excuse to hand trillions of dollars to private banks, private companies through Wall Street, through the Federal Reserve, and BlackRock Capital is now engaged in something called special purpose vehicles, where they're buying corporate paper, commercial paper, they're nationalizing industry, they're bailing out their friends on Wall Street, they're bailing out cartel companies at the expense of mom and pop restaurants. They're waging economic warfare against the population. So they're driving independent businesses, independent restaurants, independent coffee chains, independent hotel chains out of business, and they're coming in with chain stores, chain restaurants, chain coffee shops. If you take a look at Bill Ackman, Pershing Capital Management, one of the examples of foreknowledge, of people having foreknowledge. He not only does he claim he successfully hedged his portfolio against the unthinkable and made $2.6 billion, but when you go into his portfolio, it is almost design. It's like he knew that someone was going to put all of these chain restaurants, chain hotels, and chain coffee shops out of business because his portfolio is Starbucks, Chipotle, Hilton Hotels, and Restaurant Brands International, which runs 26,000, Popeyes, Tim Hortons, and Burger Kings. So they're going to put all the mom and pops out of business, and they're going to come in with deep-pocketed chain restaurants as a form of economic warfare to destroy private wealth. And so you've got to fight back. They're holding these businesses' heads underwater going, oh, we're going to let you out from underwater in a week or two, and then a week or two comes along, oh no, it's just going to be 2 more weeks, as they're literally holding you underwater, drowning.
And in some case, by the way, in some cases they'll say, oh yeah, in 2 days you'll be able to open back up, so everyone's getting all their supplies, and then the day before suddenly they say, oh, actually never mind, you have to stay closed. So then they lose a bunch of money on stuff, inventory and stuff like that. They went after the small grocery chains and said, or not even chains, just grocery stores in general, and said, you have to stay closed, your aisles aren't big enough, but Walmart can stay open. Absolutely insane.
I want to add something too, because there was a restaurant in Carmel, California that we went down to, and we brought about 15 of our people, and we said, the owner said, we're going to open up. Despite the shelter in place to close, we're going to open up. So we did. They opened up. There was 30 or 40 people. It was a great time. The police drove by. They did nothing. And so we're like, yeah, they're going to reopen. But then they had some status lawyer talk in their ear, and basically the next weekend they complied. And I got a lot of respect for the owners, but when you have different advisors giving you different advice, and this is why volunteers, you guys are the visionaries out there, the planet. You guys understand that there's no special rights or privileges, even if you are the DA or the sheriff or whatever, like you're a human being. And so anyways, long story short, they complied, and now they're, I think, getting close to be out of business. So what we're saying is that you asked the question of, how long do you think you'll be able to do civil disobedience? I think forever. Like, this is a real solution for authoritarian organizations. There's strength in numbers, and they depend upon your compliance and your cooperation. That's all it is. It's like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. We're big and scary, and then you come out and it's a small little like chicken or something. You know, it's like they have no power except the power that you give them, and they do have some guns and they can confiscate some stuff, but they can't do it to everybody. So this is another conversation about how to get rid of property taxes. I got some ideas there, but communities have to meet your neighbors. You got to actually go talk with people and say, hey, I'm not okay with this. And so it is scary, it is risky, but it's actually more scary and risky if you shut up, if you keep your mouth closed, if you swallow your truth. What is your legacy going to be for your kids? Right. You lived when these masks were being forced on humanity. How about if you could go rewind 20 years and go back to the TSA when they were putting body scanners in the airports? Did you think that was going to be permanent? Yeah. And now they're groping your genitals and just doing really terrible things to elderly people and to children for the right to travel. So how about the right to enter a store, the right to travel on a plane? Again, you got to wear a mask now, increase the carbon dioxide you're breathing. I mean, it's diabolical what's happening, so I think we're going to keep going. And if enough people catch this fire, yeah, we believe in a free world, a voluntary world, and it's up to us to do that. Unite each other, put our arms together, say, okay, we're going to get cited or we're going to be arrested. But we're not going to go down without a fight against these criminals who are violating your natural rights. That's really important to remember.
Great rallying call, and remember, they're going to say if you want to go outside, you have to be traced everywhere. If you won't be force vaccinated, but what they will do is that they won't allow you to go travel, go to restaurants, go to public places without it. It'll probably apply to social credit at some point, Chinese style, like technocracy and stuff. And honestly, they're basically holding us over your head. Hey, you want to be slightly more free? Go and become more of a slave. And it's truly Orwellian doublespeak. So I really hope people stand up. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, but I do think it's going to get better. But we've got some trials and tribulations ahead of us, and I really appreciate both of your work trying to spread this message and get people empowered and standing up. Before we go, can you let people know where to find more of your work as well as you?
Yeah, you go to gatherproject.com. I think the initiative I'm excited about is getting children out of the school system, because they're going to try to implement these masks and these social distancing measures in school to children. You're not going to be able to touch your friends, play with your friends. How traumatizing is that for children? So let alone the Common Core, let alone the sex ed curriculum and the forced vaccines in various states, the school system is the factory where they learn to be obedient, compliant, and violate their own natural rights. So find me at gatherproject.com.
Étienne de la Boétie squared. The book is Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed at government-scam.com. And also everything that we were telling you, learning how to do civil disobedience in Santa Cruz, we're ready to template that. We're ready to roll it out across the country. We've got it. We're trying to raise some money for some Liberty donors that are looking to get into this fight and really hit hard. We've got some shovel-ready Liberty projects to take the lessons that we've learned and keep rolling them out across the nation. So government-scam.com. You can find out more about the Art of Liberty Foundation on the website. And if you know anybody that is looking to hit back hard, have them give us a call.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate talking to you guys. As always, guys, hit that like button, share on social media, get us around the shadow banning. Join me on flote.app as well as BitChute, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Like what you see here, OM. Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribe Star. We really can't do it without you. We've been so insanely shadow banned, about 90% at this point, and 95% demonetized. As Susan Woznicki, the CEO of YouTube, comes in and says that she is shutting down quote-unquote controversial content and cutting out the views on this controversial content by 70%. She's been bragging about it. We need your help more than ever in this battle for truth in information. You guys are what keeps us alive, so we really appreciate just even $1 a month makes a huge difference. If everyone could give just $1 a month, we wouldn't even have to worry about competing against a mainstream propaganda networks. You can also donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen for you to scan if you please, as well as in the comments and description. Liking and sharing makes a big difference as well, and finding us on alternative social media platforms like flote.app, that's flote.app, makes a huge difference. We're at Josh Sigurdson as well as at Wham. Flote is replacing Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging, and of course monetization on videos for creators, live streams with super chats in crypto, and most of all, no algorithm, because at the end of the day, it's all about reach, guys. This is all about actually reaching people with the message and waking up the public. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, Minds, BitChute, all sorts of different platforms. Try to follow us on as many things as possible, because very soon this channel will very likely just be completely deleted from YouTube, and you'll never see us again, and you'll be stuck with only the mainstream networks. Also, come on out and see us at Anarcho Vegas 2020 in Las Vegas, Nevada in July, where such speakers such as G. Edward Griffin and many others will be speaking. You could use promo code WHAM on your VIP tickets and save 10%, as well as buy extremely cheap tickets for just $20.20. You won't find a cheaper conference than this with such amazing names. Check anarchovegas.com for more information on that. We hope to see you out there. And anyway, I really appreciate all of you guys joining us. You make it possible for us to survive in this volatile, propagandized climate. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.